I'm a Northern graduate, was gone for a number of years. In 1997, I was fortunate enough to come back as the director of the Career Center, and through mutual friends got to meet Dr. Ganzert, got to meet Chuck, primarily social kinds of things, dinners out, friendly card games, biking in the woods, kayaking on the lake, things like that. So my friendship with him started that way, and then later, I was asked to be one of the co-advisors to WUPX-FM, the student radio station here at Northern, of which Chuck was the other advisor. So he and I, since about 1999, worked closely together advising the student radio station. Well, I think one of the easiest ways to illustrate the way Chuck tended to make friends and certainly keep friends is people like to say, or I like to say, that Chuck and I were friends before we ever met. Through various conversations, it turns out that Chuck earned his PhD from Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, and befriended an international student there named Shivram. Shivram was international. He hung out in the International Student Affairs office, and the secretary in that office was my aunt. So Chuck knew my aunt when he was working on his PhD, and through a conversation one night he and I discovered that he knew Phyllis Butner, who was my aunt. So he and I go back even further than 1997. But I think that just goes to show how Chuck and my aunt remembered Chuck, because once I learned that, I called her and verified, just to say, and she of course remembered Shivram, and she remembered Chuck and the times that they hung out in her office. That's the impact Chuck had. He just, not only as a wonderful professor, but also as someone who made friends easily and kept those friendships alive through various things. Outdoorsman to the max. He could out-ski, out-hike, out-kayak most people, including myself.
Was he a good card player?
He was a good card player. Yeah, he was a good card player. We broke even. Let's just leave it that way. But I often invited up to his house on Eagles Nest Road for a meal. Never had a bad meal at his house with he and his wife, and the multitude of friends that would show up. I mean, it was an open door kind of place. Despite the fact that he's in a very public profession as a teacher, someone who has to impart that wisdom that he has to other people, very public in his Hiawatha Music Festival responsibilities, he was an extraordinarily humble man, never bragging. One of the things that none of us could ever get Chuck to do was to play the mandolin or the fiddle. We learned that he knew how, but he never would. And I think that was, he didn't want to show off, though we asked him multiple times a year if he would do that for us, around his dinner table or after dinner or on his deck overlooking Lake Superior. And he often said, well, no, not now. He was very gracious, but a very, very humble man. And I think that resonated with the students that he worked with the faculty at the university, and certainly with staff like I am and the other friends. And the awards he's won at the university. He would never be one to tell you that, but the Distinguished Faculty Award that he was due to receive, and that he certainly will receive during commencement this year. I was fortunate enough to nominate him for the Excellence in Teaching Award a number of years ago at the university, which he was selected to receive. So any number of awards at the university. He would never talk about that. We will certainly talk about that. He never would. I think just by way of a remembrance, he's one of those people that I will remember every single day. Hiking in the woods, walking across campus, mountain biking up on the trails that he showed me, kayaking along the shore. I think that's going to be the tribute that I will leave with Chuck.